There's a place on Earth where even the wind sounds angry, a place so remote that rescue is impossible for 8 months of the year. Temperatures drop below -80 degrees Celsius. The air itself can freeze exposed skin in seconds and turn breath into ice crystals before it leaves your lungs. Yet here, on this lifeless plateau of Antarctica, perched 3,200 meters above sea level, a handful of humans have built a home. They call it Concordia Station, but to the people who live here it's white Mars. No trees, no animals, no sunlight for 4 months straight. Just silence, science, and the unrelenting cold. This is not just a research base. It's an experiment in human endurance, a test of whether civilization can survive where nature has erased everything else. Welcome to Dome C, the Antarctic Plateau, the most isolated research station on the planet. To understand what it means to live here, you must first understand the land itself. Antarctica is not simply cold. It is a continent-sized monument to absence. The interior plateau where Concordia sits stretches endlessly in every direction, a white desert more barren than the Sahara, more hostile than the surface of Mars. There are no landmarks here. No mountains break the horizon. No coastline offers perspective. The ice beneath Concordia Station is 3 kilometers thick, ancient frozen water that fell as snow when mammoths still walked the earth. The altitude makes everything worse. At 3,200 meters, the air is thin, oxygen-starved, every breath a reminder that this place was never meant for human lungs. The atmospheric pressure here mimics what you'd experience at 4,000 meters anywhere else on Earth. Your body knows it doesn't belong. Headaches arrive within hours. Sleep becomes fractured, shallow. The simplest tasks, climbing stairs, carrying equipment, leave you gasping. And then there's the cold. During winter, temperatures plunge to -80 degrees Celsius, sometimes lower. This is colder than the average surface temperature of Mars. Wind chill can push the effective temperature past -100. At these extremes, metal becomes brittle, plastic shatters like glass, fuel thickens into sludge. Human skin exposed for more than a few minutes turns white, then black. Frostbite doesn't creep, it strikes. But cold is only part of the equation. Dome C receives less precipitation than the Sahara Desert. The air here is so dry it pulls moisture from everything. Wood cracks, lips split, throats bleed. Every breath you take is stolen water your body will never get back. Dehydration is constant, inevitable, a war of attrition fought one exhale at a time. For 4 months each year, from May to August, the sun never rises. Not for a few hours, never. The sky transitions from deep blue to black and stays there, an endless polar night that swallows time itself. Days cease to have meaning. Circadian rhythms collapse. The body forgets when to sleep, when to wake. Some crew members report feeling disconnected from themselves, as if they're watching their own lives from outside their bodies. And when the sun does return, it doesn't set. For 4 months, it circles the horizon in a lazy spiral, never dipping below the edge of the world. Constant daylight becomes its own kind of darkness. No natural rhythm, no closure, no rest for eyes that evolved to need the night. The sky here does things that seem impossible. Halos form around the sun, perfect rings of light caused by ice crystals suspended in the stratosphere. Sometimes 3 suns appear at once, phantom twins flanking the real star. At night, when night still means something, the aurora australis dances overhead in curtains of green and red, the only movement in a world that has forgotten motion. This is the place where Roald Amundsen proved human could conquer geography, where Robert Falcon Scott died trying. Ernest Shackleton called Antarctica the last great journey left to man. He was wrong about that. Humans would eventually reach the South Pole, would plant flags and claim victory. But he was right about something deeper. Antarctica doesn't care about flags. It doesn't acknowledge conquest. The cold endures. The ice remains. Humanity's presence here is tolerated, not welcomed. And yet, impossibly, Concordia Station exists. 2 cylindrical towers rise from the ice like mechanical mushrooms, connected by a central corridor. Solar panels tilt toward a sun that barely warms them. Satellite dishes point at distant invisible networks. Inside, fluorescent lights hum, computers blink, coffee brews. Somewhere in the frozen heart of the most inhospitable continent on Earth, humans have carved out a pocket of warmth and called it home. The station is operated jointly by France and Italy, a collaboration born from the understanding that no single nation should bear the burden of this place alone. It was completed in 2005, built to withstand winds that can exceed 100 kilometers per hour, temperatures that would kill exposed machinery, and an isolation so complete that resupply is impossible for two-thirds of the year. From above, Concordia looks fragile, absurd. A pair of silver cans dropped onto an infinite sheet of white paper. From inside, it feels like the last outpost of human civilization, a fragile bubble of warmth in a universe that wants it gone. The people who come here know what they're signing up for. They've read the warnings, passed the psychological screenings, said goodbye to families and sunlight and the comforting chaos of normal life. But reading about isolation is not the same as living it. No amount of preparation can truly ready someone for the moment the last plane lifts off, when the sound of its engines fades into the empty sky, and they realize there is no one coming back. Not for 8 months. Not for anything. The winter crew at Concordia numbers between 13 and 16 people, depending on the year. A doctor, an engineer, climate scientists, a cook, a station manager, people from different countries, different backgrounds, different reasons for being here. They are selected not just for their skills, but for their ability to endure psychologically, socially, emotionally. Space agencies study them closely. The European Space Agency considers Concordia Station the closest analog to a Mars base humanity has ever created. The isolation, the confinement, the danger, the absolute dependence on technology to breathe and survive, all of it mirrors what astronauts will face when they finally leave Earth behind. But that's future tense. Right now, in the present, these 13 people are simply trying to live. Winter begins when the last Twin Otter aircraft departs in mid-February, taking with it the summer crew, fresh food, and any illusion of connection to the outside world. The temperature is already dropping, the sun already starting its long descent toward the horizon. The winter crew stands outside in insulated suits and watches the plane disappear. Someone always cries, not because they're sad necessarily, but because the enormity of what comes next suddenly becomes real. They are now the most isolated humans on Earth, further from rescue than astronauts on the International Space Station, more cut off than sailors on submarines. If something goes catastrophically wrong, no one can reach them. The cold makes flight impossible. The darkness makes navigation suicidal. They are on their own. Daily life at Concordia is built on routine, because routine is the only defense against the creeping madness of monotony. Alarms sound at 7 in the morning, though morning has no meaning here. The crew shuffles into the communal kitchen for breakfast: freeze-dried eggs, canned fruit, bread baked from stores of flour that must last 8 months. Coffee is rationed. Fresh food is a memory. By week 3, someone will dream about biting into an apple. By week 8, they'll cry about it. After breakfast, work begins. The climate scientists bundle into survival suits and venture outside to check instruments, collect ice cores, measure atmospheric composition. Every trip outside is planned like a spacewalk. The cold can kill in minutes. Radio contact is mandatory. Buddy systems are non-negotiable. The engineer monitors power systems, inspects generators, checks fuel levels. The doctor inventories medical supplies and watches the crew for signs of psychological strain. Insomnia, irritability, depression, the slow unraveling that happens when human minds are deprived of stimulation, sunlight, and privacy. Lunch is communal. Dinner is communal. Every meal eaten together, because isolation within isolation is unbearable. They play games, cards, board games, anything to fill the hours. They watch movies on hard drives, the same films cycled through until everyone can recite the dialogue. They read books, exercise on stationary bikes that go nowhere, stare at computer screens that show them a world they can no longer touch. The internet connection is slow, sporadic, routed through satellites that barely acknowledge Antarctica's existence. Emails take hours to send. Video calls are impossible. Loved ones become words on a screen, delayed, distant, abstracted. Some crew members stop emailing after a while. It's easier than feeling the distance. The station has rules. Unwritten, unspoken, but understood. You don't slam doors. You don't raise your voice. You give people space even when there's no space to give. You forgive small annoyances because there's no escape from each other. 15 people sharing two cylindrical buildings, seeing the same faces every day, hearing the same voices, breathing the same recycled air. Arguments happen. Resentments build. Someone chews too loudly. Someone snores. Someone won't clean up after themselves in the shared bathroom. Tiny infractions become monumental grievances because there's nothing else to think about. Psychologists call it the third quarter phenomenon, the point around two-thirds through the isolation when morale collapses. The initial excitement has faded. The end still feels impossibly far away. This is when crew members stop talking, when they retreat into themselves, when the doctor starts watching more carefully for signs of breakdown. But there are good days too. Days when the aurora lights up the sky and everyone crowds into the observation lounge to watch. Days when someone bakes fresh bread and the smell fills the station, and for a moment it feels like home. Days when the science works, when the data collected here, air trapped in ancient ice, temperatures recorded at Earth's coldest point, atmospheric measurements crucial to understanding climate change, reminds them why they came. They're not just enduring, they're contributing. Every day they survive is a day of data collected, knowledge preserved, humanity's understanding of the planet deepened. Still the question lingers, whispered late at night when sleep won't come, unspoken during the long dark afternoons. Why? Why are we here? What are we trying to prove? The answer is simple and impossibly complex, because someone has to be. Then the storm comes. It begins as a whisper of wind, barely noticeable over the constant background hum of ventilation systems and generators. But within an hour, the whisper becomes a scream. Wind speeds surge past 120 kilometers per hour, driving snow horizontally across the plateau, turning the air into a white wall of fury. Visibility drops to zero. The world outside the windows disappears entirely, replaced by a churning chaos of white and gray. Inside Concordia, alarms begin to sound. The first is a power fluctuation, brief, barely noticeable, a flicker of lights, a momentary dip in heating. The engineer frowns, checks the monitors, sees nothing immediately wrong. Then it happens again, longer this time. The lights dim. The hum of the ventilation system drops in pitch, and then the main generator shuts down. Silence, the kind of silence that isn't peaceful, that presses against your eardrums like water pressure. The backup generator kicks in immediately. This is what it's designed for, what it's tested for. But the backup is smaller, weaker. It can power life support and emergency heating, but not everything, not the full station. Lights switch to emergency mode, dim and red-tinted. The temperature begins to drop immediately. The engineer pulls on an insulated suit, mutters something in Italian that doesn't need translation. Outside, in that storm, in that cold, the main generator is failing. And if they can't fix it, the backup won't last. It's not designed to run indefinitely. They have hours, maybe less, before systems start cascading into failure. The station manager makes the call. 2 people will go outside, the engineer and the mechanic. They'll assess the damage, attempt repairs. It's not optional. Without the main generator, heating fails. Without heating, the interior temperature will plummet toward equilibrium with the outside, -70, -80. At that temperature, water lines freeze and burst. Electronics fail. The station becomes a tomb. The engineer and mechanic suit up in the airlock. Triple-layer insulated suits, heated gloves, full-face respirators to protect lungs from air so cold it can cause frostbite from the inside. Headlamps, radios, safety tethers. The doctor watches them, says nothing. Everyone knows what's at stake. The outer door opens, the storm swallows them. Inside the station, the crew waits. Radio static crackles. Fragments of communication come through, broken, distorted. Visual, negative, can't see, meter away. The wind is so loud on the microphones that voices are barely audible. Someone paces. Someone stares at the temperature gauge, watching it drop. -40 inside, -45, -50. Time stretches. Minutes feel like hours. The only sound is wind howling against the station's skin and the labored breathing of 13 people trying not to panic. Then the radio crackles. Found the problem. The voice is the engineer's, barely recognizable through layers of distortion and cold stiffened speech. Fuel line, frozen, need to heat it, manually. Someone asks how long. No answer, just static and wind. The temperature inside continues to drop. People layer on every piece of clothing they own. Breath becomes visible in the red emergency lighting. Fingers grow numb even indoors. The doctor pulls out the medical kit, prepares for frostbite treatment, hypothermia protocols, the kinds of injuries that happen when humans push their bodies past safe limits. Outside, the engineer and mechanic work blind. The storm is so thick they can't see their own hands. They navigate by touch, by memory, by the thin beam of headlamps that barely penetrates a meter into the swirling white. The fuel line is frozen solid, a valve closed by ice, choking off diesel to the generator. They need to heat it, thaw it, restore flow. But how do you heat anything when the ambient temperature is 80 below and the wind is ripping away every joule of warmth? Improvisation, the only tool humanity has ever really had. The mechanic sacrifices a chemical heat pack, the kind meant for warming hands, cracks it, shakes it, presses it against the frozen valve. Waits. The engineer shields it from the wind with her own body, feeling the cold bite through insulated layers, feeling her core temperature beginning to drop. Time becomes meaningless. Everything is cold and white and wind. Existence narrows to this single moment, this single valve, this thin line between survival and surrender. Then impossibly the valve cracks open. Fuel flows. The generator coughs, sputters, roars back to life. Inside the station, lights flicker back to full brightness. The ventilation system surges from whisper to roar. Heating coils begin radiating warmth. Someone laughs, a sound halfway between relief and hysteria. Someone else sinks to the floor. The doctor doesn't move, just closes her eyes and breathes. The radio crackles, "We're coming in." The airlock opens. The engineer and mechanic stumble through, covered in frost, faces hidden behind ice-crusted respirators. The doctor rushes forward, begins checking for frostbite, hypothermia. The damage cold inflicts on human tissue. Fingers are white but responsive. Core temperatures are low but stable. They'll be okay. They'll survive. The storm continues for 3 more days, but the main generator holds. Fuel flows, heat stays. The crisis has passed. In the aftermath, the station feels different, quieter somehow, even though nothing has changed. The crew moves through their routines with a new understanding of how fragile this all is, how close they came, how quickly warmth can become cold, safety can become danger, home can become grave. But they also feel something else, pride maybe, or something deeper than pride. They faced the worst this place could throw at them and didn't break. When the machinery failed, they fixed it. When the storm tried to kill them, they survived. Not because they were stronger than nature, they're not, no one is, but because they refused to give up. Because ingenuity and cooperation and sheer stubborn human willpower bought them one more day, one more breath, one more chance to see the sun rise again. The generator repair becomes a story they'll tell later when they're back in the world, when they're sitting in cafes drinking coffee made from fresh beans and eating food that isn't freeze-dried. They'll describe the cold, the fear, the darkness, and people will nod sympathetically, but they won't truly understand. You can't understand this place without living in it. You can't comprehend isolation without experiencing it, can't know cold until it's trying to kill you. Weeks pass, then months. The darkness begins to lift, first as a glow on the horizon, barely visible, easily mistaken for imagination, then as a sliver of sun, the edge of the star breaking the plane of the world. The crew gathers at the observation windows to watch. Some cry, some cheer, some stand silent, overwhelmed by the simple fact of light. The sun rises slowly, circling higher each day, and with it comes a shift in mood. Energy returns. Conversations become livelier. People start thinking about home, about the plane that will come in November to carry them back to civilization. They start remembering why they came here in the first place. The data they've collected over these 8 months is extraordinary. Ice core samples containing air from 50,000 years ago, trapped in frozen time. Atmospheric measurements showing carbon dioxide levels, ozone concentrations, temperature fluctuations. Every data point collected here helps scientists understand Earth's climate history, predict its future, comprehend the systems that make this planet habitable. The work done at Concordia isn't just scientific curiosity. It's survival research for the entire human species. And there's something else they've learned, something harder to quantify but no less important. They've learned what humans are capable of when everything else is stripped away. No distractions, no escape, no comfort beyond what they create together. They've learned that isolation doesn't break people, not necessarily. Sometimes it reveals them, shows what they're made of beneath the layers of social conditioning and modern convenience. Space agencies study the Concordia crew for exactly this reason. When humans finally establish a base on Mars, when we venture beyond the protective bubble of Earth's atmosphere into the hostile emptiness of space, we'll need to know whether we can survive not just physically but psychologically. Can humans maintain sanity in confinement? Can we cooperate when there's no authority to enforce rules? Can we find meaning in isolation, purpose in monotony, hope in darkness? Concordia Station answers yes. Not perfectly, not easily, but yes. The plane arrives in November like salvation, like vindication, like proof that the world beyond the ice still exists. The crew packs their personal belongings, secures the station for the incoming summer team, says goodbye to a place that tried to kill them and somehow became home. They board the Twin Otter, strap in, feel the engines roar to life. The plane lifts off. The station shrinks below them, becoming a tiny silver dot on an infinite white canvas, then disappearing entirely. They fly north toward the coast, toward warmth, toward colors other than white and black. Someone sleeps. Someone stares out the window. Someone hasn't spoken since they boarded. When they finally step off the plane at a coastal station, the air temperature is -20, balmy, tropical. Almost uncomfortable after 8 months of brutal cold. The sun is bright, the sky is blue. Somewhere in the distance, seabirds cry. One crew member kneels and presses her hand against exposed rock, feeling texture that isn't ice, solidity that isn't snow. She stays there for a long time. Reintegration is strange. The world they return to is louder than they remember, more crowded, more complicated. Supermarkets overwhelm with choices. Conversations feel superficial. People complain about things that seem absurdly trivial: traffic, weather, slow internet. The Concordia crew nods politely, but they're thinking about the generator, the storm, the 4 months of darkness. They're thinking about what it means to genuinely need each other, to depend on cooperation for survival, to face nature at its most hostile and refuse to surrender. Some of them will return to Concordia. Not everyone, but some. Because despite the hardship, despite the cold and darkness and isolation, there's something pure about that place. Something clarifying. Out there on the high Antarctic plateau, life becomes simple. Survival, science, each other, everything else falls away. Out here there are no borders, no political theater, no manufactured outrage. There's only wind and willpower. Every breath they take is borrowed from machines, every heartbeat a victory against silence. The planet has spent millions of years erasing life from this place, And yet humans persist, defiant, stubborn, brilliant. We build stations where stations shouldn't exist. We gather data where data has never been gathered. We push against the boundaries of the possible not because it's easy or profitable or safe, but because we cannot help ourselves, because curiosity is stronger than comfort, because the unknown pulls us forward even when wisdom suggests turning back. Concordia Station is more than a research base. It's a monument to human ambition, a testament to what we can endure when purpose drives us, a reminder that we are a species of explorers, of survivors, of dreamers who refuse to accept limits. The ice remembers everyone who has tried to conquer it. Amundsen, Scott, Shackleton, thousands of others whose names are lost to history. And now, the winter cruise of Concordia Station, ordinary people doing extraordinary things in the most inhospitable environment on Earth. The sun rises and sets, the storms come and go, the ice endures, ancient and patient and utterly indifferent to humanity's brief presence. But we are here, we have been here, and we will return, because in this frozen emptiness we find something the rest of the world has forgotten. Clarity, purpose, proof that humans belong anywhere we choose to be, even at the edge of survival, even at the end of the earth, even in the places that were never meant for us. Especially there,